All right, well, good morning, everybody, and I want to say thank you so much for coming out on this, it feels like winter now, finally, this morning. I'm Congressman Adam Kinzinger. I have the honor of representing the 11th Congressional District. This district is one of the most energy-intense districts in the country. It's home to 3 nuclear power plants. It's home to hydropower plants, ethanol and biodiesel plants, and an oil refinery. Our district embodies the all-of-the-above approach to energy that we must stand for. Nuclear energy production alone in this district employs more than 2,400 people throughout the Illinois Valley. Joining me, joining me here today is a diverse group of folks who are committed to getting people back to work through this Keystone XL Pipeline. First, we have Russ Slinkard with the Joliet Regional Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Jerry Caamano with Three Rivers Manufacturing Association, Tom Wolf with the Illinois Chamber Energy Council, Pat Young with the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 150, Tom Gross, he's the Director of Pipeline and Gas Distribution for the Pipefitters Local 597, and Jim Prescott from Transcanada. I'm joined by these folks from the 11th District to stress the importance and urgent need for President Obama to reconsider and authorize the construction of the Keystone XL Pipeline here in the United States. As a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, I'm committed to seeing this pipeline built here in the United States. This pipeline would strengthen our economy, and it would create a more stable and sound environment for job creation and for oil production. But what exactly does a Keystone XL Pipeline mean for the United States? For starters, it means reducing our addiction to foreign oil and creating directly or indirectly more than 100,000 manufacturing and construction jobs. In addition, we'd see 830,000 barrels of safe energy and secure oil every day from our friends from the north, which means we will need less oil from countries that we can no longer rely on and are not friendly to the interests of the United States. Just last month, the Obama administration rejected the construction of the Keystone XL Pipeline project. It was disappointing to see the administration block the XL project, particularly after his own Jobs Council yesterday called for an all-in approach to energy policy that incorporates expanded oil and gas drilling in addition to advancing energy projects such as pipelines. The report stated that the Council recognizes the important safety and environmental concerns surrounding these types of projects, but now more than ever, the jobs and economic energy security benefits of these energy projects require us to tackle the issues head-on and to expeditiously, though cautiously, move forward on projects that can support hundreds of thousands of jobs. The Keystone XL Pipeline would have done and will do just that. The Keystone extension has bipartisan support in Congress and across the country. Manufacturers and union organizations alike are also supportive. And last summer, the State Department announced this extension passed environmental reviews. Unfortunately, this missed opportunity is another example of placing politics before people. The fact that someone will benefit from oil the fact is that someone will benefit from this oil out of Alberta. If it's not the United States, it will be China. And it will be American businesses and consumers who suffer the consequences from this inaction. With that, I'm going to turn it over to some of the others joining me today to explain how the Keystone Pipeline would benefit us here in the United States. And just for your record here, the blue line you see is an existing pipeline, and the green line and the yellow line is the proposed pipeline. So just want to make that very clear right here that that's what we're talking about. And if we had another thing, we could show you that this is not the very first pipeline that's being considered in the United States. In fact, if you look at a picture of the United States, and here we go, it's kind of small, but this is an example right here. This is exactly where existing pipelines exist today. And so if you take a look at it, this isn't the first time we've ever done this. And frankly, these are being done daily, and we have product being passed through these pipelines daily in a very safe way. So the very first person I'd like to turn it over for a few comments is Russ Slinkard, the Joliet Region Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Russ?
Thank you very much, Congressman. It was a real disappointment when the President rejected the plan for Keystone XL. Obviously, we all know about the job situation, or lack of jobs situation here in this country with the high unemployment continuing. And here's a project that, if approved and when approved, will increase our income of oil by 1/3 over what we're getting from Canada now. Another 700,000 to 800,000 barrels of oil per day coming into our region. Thing that will give us energy security for years to come, will create billions of dollars in economic improvement, and will create tens of thousands of jobs across this country. Illinois certainly will benefit from that, not just in the short term, but obviously in the long term, and it's something that our chamber has taken a position in support of, and we will continue to press for the building of Keystone Pipeline XL. Thank you.
I think another thing to mention too is the reality. We talk every day about this concern that America is losing its position as the leader of the free world to China, and it's a concern I have, and it's something that throughout my time in Congress I'm going to work hard to ensure that we maintain our position as the world leader, frankly in all areas, because that's the kind of America that we want to leave our kids and grandkids, and frankly one that we want to live in. When you miss opportunities, and instead you miss opportunities for 800,000 barrels of oil to China, that is an example of why in some cases people are concerned that we're losing that competitive edge. Next, I'd like to introduce Jerry Caamano, the Three Rivers Manufacturing Association.
Thank you, Congressman. As mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Three Rivers Manufacturers Association. Last fall, we wrote a letter to the State Department encouraging the approval of the pipeline. We were very discouraged when the administration didn't do so. Let me just frame why this is so important, not only to the United States, but to our area. We work with the manufacturers in Will and Grundy County. And the manufacturers we work with have a payroll of about $700 million a year. And there are about 25 chemical and petrochemical facilities in Will and Grundy County. In total, they use about $140 million in electricity, about $120 million in natural gas, and billions, and I mean billions of dollars in raw materials. Many of those raw materials are oil-based, petroleum-based. I think it's extremely important that we have adequate supply of crude oil and derivatives in our area to keep our economy going in Will and Grundy County. Right now, about 50% of the oil that is refined in this area comes from Canada. There are 2 oil refineries here in Will County. There's another one across the state in northwest Indiana, and there are 2 additional refineries in central part of Illinois, downstate. So Illinois is the 4th largest refiner of crude oil in the United States, and a lot of people don't realize that. We believe that the excuse used by the administration that we were not ready, or the state of Nebraska was not ready, is really a lame excuse. If you look at it, the administration could have approved the pipeline and still give enough time to the public officials in the state of Nebraska to negotiate the exact route of the pipeline with the environmental groups and the owners of the pipeline. So there was plenty of time to do that. The State Department issued an environmental impact study, which basically stated that no significant impacts to most resources will occur with the Keystone Pipeline. The study is about 10,000 pages. It is hard to imagine what else we need to do that. In the process, since the application was submitted back in September of 2008, there were about 14 different routes that were evaluated. More than 100 public hearings have been held, and the review process generated over 300,000 comments. So again, it's hard to imagine that there are some issues out there that we haven't touched. The pipeline would generate a lot of jobs. There's no question about that. And whereas 50,000 or 100,000 or 300,000, that really is immaterial. It will generate a lot of jobs. It will generate economic impact to our area. And more importantly, we will get oil from a stable source. 700,000 barrels a day that will come from Canada, and instead of coming from some of the other areas that are not as stable, Venezuela, Nigeria, and some of the parts in the Middle East. So I think that's the key thing. We need the pipeline. It will generate jobs. It will generate economic impact, and I think we're ready now. We're ready for the administration to approve the pipeline now. Thank you. By the way, if somebody's interested, I have some fact sheets about some of the information that I presented, so please see me after that.
Thank you, Jerry. Tom Wolf from the Illinois Chamber Energy Council.
Thank you very much, Congressman.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Wolf. I'm with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. I'm Executive Director of the Energy Council. We represent transmitters, transporters, and generators of energy of all kind. We're kind of one of the groups that is the all of the above approach to energy. I'm going to, in an effort not to be repetitive with the other folks in this dais, I'm going to talk about one specific issue, and that we do agree with the U.S. State Department and the Obama administration on this issue, but we agree with them in 2009. Because in 2009, many of you probably don't know this, the Obama administration approved a pipeline between the U.S. and Canada. It was proposed by Enbridge, and it goes from Canada down through North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois, just west of here. That pipeline was approved in 2009. So the question is, and the men and women from the labor unions built that pipeline, if I remember correctly. So the question is, why do we approve a pipeline in 2009 and not approve one in 2011? It's the same type of oil. It's the same pipeline technology. I assume the environment, land, aquifers, rivers in the Midwest are just as valuable and just as important as those in the Plain States. So why would the State Department, Secretary Clinton, and the Obama administration give a permit to a pipeline in 2009 and not 2011? What possible reason could there be? Not a logical one. In fact, the pipeline technology used is the best way to transport natural gas, crude oil, refined petroleum products across our country. Though not perfect, no transportation system is, it's much better for the environment to ship that product by a pipeline instead of by truck or by barge or by train. And it's more economical, which saves money at the pump. I'm going to read just two paragraphs from Secretary Clinton's 2009 approval of the Enbridge pipeline. This is the same permit that Keystone's looking for right now. The department found that the addition of crude oil pipeline capacity between Canada and the United States will advance a number of strategic interests of the United States. These included increasing the diversity of available supplies among the United States' worldwide crude oil sources in a time of considerable political tension in other major oil-producing countries and regions, shortening the transportation pathway for crude oil supplies, and increasing crude oil supplies from a major non-OPEC member. Canada is a stable and reliable ally and trading partner of the United States, with which we have free trade agreements which augment the security of this energy supply. Approval of this permit sends a positive economic signal in a difficult economic period about the future reliability and availability of a portion of the United States' energy imports. And in the immediate term, this shovel-ready project will provide construction jobs for workers in the United States. The Chamber and the people here couldn't agree more with this 2009 edition of the Obama administration. So we ask that this Jekyll and Hyde approach to government oversight and regulation stop now. We ask the administration to dust off its own archives and use their own rationale to approve the Keystone XL Pipeline so we can improve the security of our energy supply and give a needed burst to the energy of our economy. Thank you.
Very well said. Next, I'm proud to introduce Pat Young, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Thank you.
Good morning. International Union of Operating Engineers Local 150 wholeheartedly supports the construction of the Keystone Pipeline and the jobs, economic activity, and energy security it will bring to this region. I have absolutely no doubt the local employment and increased oil imports it would create. The largest project in the area at this time right now is the modernization of the BP Whiting refinery right now, and it employs approximately 700 operating engineers from both Illinois and Indiana. Refineries right here in Joliet are already talking about the possible upgrades to refined Canadian crude and if Keystone XL is built. so the pipeline will create hundreds of jobs for the operating engineers. Emerging economies are consuming oil at an unprecedented rate, so the global demand is not going to decline anytime soon. Right now, everything from Libyan regime changes and Iran threats to close shipping lines affect Americans' pocketbooks. In increasing our imports from Canada, the most friendly of neighbors, and cutting reliance on oil from unfriendly nations, we increase our energy security. The Keystone Pipeline is good for America, and we hope that the administration will do the smart thing and okay the Keystone XL Pipeline without delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I think Pat touched on a very good point too, which is this is a national security issue as well. And at a time when we see instability in the Middle East and all around the world, it's nice to be able to rely on the Canadians, who you don't see a whole lot of instability and unreliability. So it's a great thing. Next, I'm proud to introduce Tom Gross, Director of Pipeline and Gas Distribution, the Pipefitters Local 597. And I have to say, I remember a few years ago, there was a very big rally at the Pipefitters talking about, it brought business and labor together, talking about the need of energy. And I was there, I enjoyed it, it was a great event, and I'd like to introduce Tom.
Thank you, Congressman. I have to get my glasses on here. Show my age. As the Congressman said, my name is Tom Gross. I'm the Director of Pipeline and Gas Distribution for the United Association, Plumbers and Pipe Fitters. I represent 340,000 members of the United Association, Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, Sprinkler Fitters, along with their families. The UA, as my organization is known, provides highly trained craftsmen and women who build everything from homes, schools, hospitals, power plants, manufacturing facilities. Our membership will do the construction on the Keystone XL Pipeline. The final environmental impact statement for the proposed Keystone XL project was released on August 26, 2011. Please understand that this document was not just a statement, but it was a detailed report that included stringent analysis and addressed many concerns that the public had voiced. I have seen firsthand the construction of pipelines throughout North America, and I can tell you that when the UA is involved, you can rest assured that they are built with the utmost skill, integrity, and commitment to safety. Right-of-ways are meticulously prepared with segregation of topsoil, subsoil, and once the pipeline is laid and buried, the process of reclamation is very carefully and successfully completed. The State Department is correct when it stated the Keystone XL pipeline will have a minimal environmental impact. The route has been carefully prepared and rerouted to ensure that the fragile aquifers will not be disturbed. It is important to the United Association that everyone understands that the security of our environment is and will continue to be an important concern to us. We're deeply committed to preserving our air, water, and natural resources for future generations, but we also know pipelines have already shown to be the safest as well as the most economically viable and environmentally secure way to transport oil. Plans have already been made to protect the prairie, soil, topsoil along the route of the Keystone XL pipeline. So this project will continue the tradition of environmental integrity that the UA and our signatory contractors have demonstrated for many decades. Keystone XL is the most scrutinized project in recent memory. I can think of no project that has been reviewed more thoroughly than this one. But that's fine because we know that this project will be safe and environmentally sound. That's how we build our pipelines. Four of the most important questions facing our nation today are: how can we create more jobs? How can we increase our energy supply while reducing our dependency on oil from the Middle East? How can we further ensure our national security? And how can we do all this and still protect our environment? The Transcanada's Keystone XL project can help answer all of these questions, so perhaps another important question should follow. How can we say no to a project that can go so very long way in answering each of these questions? The reality is we can't. It is estimated that the Keystone XL project will create, at a minimum, 13,000 construction jobs, 7,000 manufacturing jobs, and at least another 118,000 spin-off jobs in other sectors. Personal incomes could see a boost of $6.5 billion, and this project will not cost the American taxpayers a dime. I have seen firsthand what the construction of a pipeline can do for a town. Hotels, small convenience stores, restaurants reap substantial benefits. Sales tax increase as well, giving a boost to the local economies. It has been stated that the communities and states along the pipeline route during construction will receive $600 million in new tax revenues and another $5.2 billion in property taxes over the life of the pipeline. U.S. employment associated with the oil sands in Canada could go as high as 465,000 by 2035. Communities and states along the pipeline route will benefit from hundreds of millions of dollars in new tax revenues. Imagine how many schools we could build, how many fire and police departments would be strengthened, how many roads we could repair, and so much more with this kind of revenue. It is projected that $5.2 billion in property taxes will be collected over the life of this line. Imagine how much good we could do with this kind of revenue. Creating jobs, enhancing energy independence, improving national security. The Keystone XL Pipeline will do all this and more. Please support this important project for all Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Well said. And last but certainly not least, Jim Prescott from Transcanada.
Thank you, Congressman. My name is Jim Prescott. I'm here on behalf of Keystone Pipeline, on behalf of Transcanada. And on behalf of everyone who works on the project, we'd like to, we agree with everything that's been said so far this morning. We've been beating this drum for quite some time now, and we know this is a good project, that it's good for America, it's good for Illinois, and it's good for every state that Keystone Pipeline is routed through. This is one of those projects that brings together a remarkable merger of interests and from politics, from business, and from labor. We've had strong support from the labor community from day one on this project, and I've been working on Keystone since 2005. And the strong support we've got from the UA, from the Building and Trades Council, and all the other labor unions that support it has been a huge asset. And it's one of those marriages between labor and business from local chambers like the Joliet Chamber, the State Chamber of Commerce here in Illinois with Doug Whitley and Tom Wolf, as well as the U.S. Chamber. And I was in Kansas the night before last and heard Jeb Bush speak at the Kansas Chamber of Commerce annual dinner, and he beat the drum on this issue as well. So this is a message that's certainly getting out there. And we also want to thank and offer our deep appreciation to Congressman Kinzinger and the other members of the Illinois congressional delegation that support this project. And it's a bipartisan effort. I've had the opportunity to speak to the congressman's colleague from the other side of the aisle, Congressman Gene Green from Houston. He obviously recognizes the assets that this project offers and the reasons to support it, which fall into three main categories: economic security, energy security, I should say, economic benefits, and environmental responsibility. As was mentioned, pipelines are by far the safest way to build, to transport oil and petroleum products from point A to point B. And as someone who's been on the pipeline right of way during construction of the first two phases of Keystone, I can assure you, and I can tell you, and I've seen it firsthand, how hard the members of the unions who work on this pipeline and how skilled they are and how dedicated they are to working to build the best pipeline, not only in North America, but frankly the best pipeline in the world. We know that's the case, will be the case with Keystone XL. We were obviously disappointed with the decision a month or so ago, but we immediately said we will refile. We will find a way to get this pipeline built. That's the plan going forward, and we look forward to the support from unions, from business, and from members of Congress and others, elected officials and stakeholders to achieve that objective. Thank you, Congressman.
Great, thank you very much.
Congressman, there's another group that's going to be coming in and using the room in just a few minutes, so we have time for just a couple questions just from members of the media, and then we've got
And, yeah, let me say too, thank you to Joliet Junior College. What a fantastic facility and school you have. You're a great asset to the community, so thank you for the opportunity. So with that, we'll open it up for questions. If anybody has anything.
You see a timeline for refiling?
Soon.
Okay. I mean, I guess my question is, if you were to refile, okay, what would the timeline be for a possible approval in the future?
Well, there's several moving parts. There was a mention of the reroute in Nebraska. That's part of it. There's a number of different options on the table. One option is building separately, if I may, this phase of the project from this phase of the project. There's a lot of commercial demand to build from Cushing, Oklahoma, south to the Gulf Coast. Cushing is a hub, much like Patoka, Illinois is, where the original line delivers to Patoka, and a lot of the oil that comes to the refineries here, as well as BP, are stored and then distributed out of Patoka. Cushing is another hub, and when you hear about where oil is, the price point for oil is set, that's based on what the commercial traffic, you might say, at Cushing. The other factor that's driving one of the options that's on the table is that the largest concentration of refineries in the world is from Corpus Christi, Texas to the Mississippi River. And I mentioned Congressman Green. He understands it just like Congressman Kinzinger does, the importance of energy security and economic benefits for all those refineries on the Gulf Coast. And this is a stable, reliable supply of oil, and there's a glut right now at Cushing. The problem is there's too much oil going into Cushing. There's not enough pipeline capacity coming south out of Cushing. That's what Keystone would do to solve that problem. So there is enormous commercial demand to build, to strongly consider that option as well. So all those options are on the table. That's a decision above my pay grade.
Oh.
Any other questions? Well, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out. Thank you, everybody up here, for joining me, from business to labor. This is a coalition of folks that are, I think, very focused on getting something done, getting Americans back to work, and taking care of those high prices at the pump. So, again, thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you.